I'm Ian Castle, founder of Microcap Club, home to the best microcap stock pickers on the planet. Since 2011, our members have profiled over 1,300 microcap companies, with over 290 turning into multi-baggers. That's more than one big winner every single month for 14 years. If you share the passion for finding great companies early, before Wall Street and the institutions, Microcap Club is where you belong. Join us.
I'll just start off by saying thank you to the Microcap Club, Ian, Robert, Sean. I'm a member of the club, and I've found it as a very, very valuable resource. So Donville Kent Asset Management, we've been around since 2008, and I'm just going to skip ahead to what we're looking at today based on time. So Intermap Technologies, it's an extremely old company. It actually, the genesis was from 1906. But why we're talking about it today is because it's at an inflection point and it has changed quite a bit. So the company has multiple revenue sources, and what it is they have low-flying planes with technology on the bottom, I'm simplifying a lot, that fly over certain areas and can get by far the most accurate and reliable data on the different types of buildings, the ground levels, and the five-layer system for terrain. So they're selling into countries that need to have this data, but then they're also selling into insurance companies with their Interpro in North America and Aquarius, which is in Europe, as well as there's other use cases. So next wave is obstacle awareness for aviation. There's a good example of a US Army helicopter that crashed because it didn't have the proper elevation data and it wasn't using it, and their Intermap's next view would have shown them the different elevation, and so now they are using it. And then next wave is telecommunication analytics. There's also other use cases with drones. There's some video game developers that are using this data, because if you want to have a real world New York City, real world Toronto, you would have to use this data to have the most accurate type of data. But now this is kind of why we're talking about it now. The company's been around a long time. The technology's been used. The technology has been proven out. But why it's an investment today is what's happened over the last 4 or 5 years. So management and the board, previous management and the board, took on a ton of debt based on future contracts they thought they were going to win, and they didn't. And what happens when you take on a ton of debt and then the net income doesn't come is you pretty much are a bankrupt company. That being said, new management comes in, and CEO Patrick, who bought his shares, he's the largest shareholder and bought his shares with his money, and this is his biggest asset. So you get a founder, shareholder-led type of company. But what he did is he right-sized the business. So you take out that $37 million of debt. Currently, as of today, they have close to $20 million of cash and zero debt on a $200 million market cap. And now they're scaling to profitability, as you can see on those two charts. So why did he do that? He came in because he could see the value in the data that's underlying the business and the opportunity. So what the company was doing wrong with all this data was they said, we've collected it, you want it? Okay, here it is, have fun. Now what they've done is they've completely revamped their end to have an app and software where anyone that's not technical at all can use the product and can pay for it on a SaaS base or on a user base model. So now it's more cost effective to the user, and now it's more scalable and profitable to Intermap. And now Intermap retains the ownership of that data and can sell it multiple times over. And as you can see, with the revenue scaling and the operating profit reaching an inflection point. Now, if anyone's followed this company recently, all the talk has been about the Indonesia contract, which we're going to talk about in a second. But what I'm just trying to give some context on the investment and on the stock. There's a lot more to the company than just the Indonesia contract. So last week I had a call with a large insurance company out of Europe, and the week before an insurance company out of Florida. And what they're doing is they're using this elevation data to underwrite flood, mostly flood, but now they're starting to look at other types of weather incidents as well. And so the insurance company out of Europe started, obviously they want to test it out, and they're seeing 40% increases in efficiency, underwriting efficiency on flood data. The Florida company quoted 30% improved efficiency on underwriting. And so, again, insurance companies are pretty slow to move, and the insurance company used to be, if you wanted flood insurance, they would send out a person, they would say, oh, yeah, there's the house, and then they would do law of large numbers and say, out of 10,000 homes, yeah, we're going to lose some of these, and we're going to make some of these. But now in places like Florida, where they're forced to underwrite, and they know they're going to have flood damage, they actually can go one by one house, and the elevation differences on a single house can be a couple feet, which can literally mean one floods and one doesn't. And so they're taking this data, which is the most accurate. It can be up to 2 to 4 meters difference from what a satellite might tell a company to what they're actually telling the company. And they're, again, underwriting at 30 to 40% more efficiency. So they're just starting to roll this out, and that's what that chart shows is, I'm going to get to the Indonesia contract and put the sense of scale there, but there is a lot more to this business than just one-off large contracts. So I'll spend some time here. So the Indonesia contract, they won phase 1, and they're currently delivering. And all the next 4 phases come up for RFP within, call it, a month and a half. And IMP is a $200 million roughly Canadian company, 140 million USD company. This is a total contract worth $200 million USD, which for their phase 1 they're showing is 30% net profit margins. So for a 140 million USD company, this contract, just this alone is they're trading on less than 3 times earnings. And then there's potentially a 5 to 10% ongoing fee they would get forever. So the idea being, this is what's right in front of investors' minds, and there might be a lot of talk about, I don't want to invest because, if they don't win it, how much is priced into the stock? And the stock has done well. And if you take a step back and you say, well, how much is invested in? Because if it's a $200 million contract, they're going to make, call it $50, $60 million, and it's a $140 million company, then not a lot of it is priced in. And they already won phase 1. They're already delivering, and they check all the boxes to win the next 4 phases. So Intermap was supposed to be here to present, and then the CEO, again, the largest shareholder, last minute jumped on a flight to Asia, Indonesia, to talk about this contract. Now I'll jump to risks. So obviously we go back to when they were over-levered and pretty much blew up. Deals cannot happen. So they thought they were going to win a Congo contract. They scaled up. They took on debt. They invested, and they didn't end up winning it. This time around, there's a lot more to the business than that, but it is a risk. Also, lumpy quarters. So this year they've had looks like very high growth and very low growth. So again, I would look at it on a year-over-year basis. The technology they use, you can go on their website, and it explains to a certain degree how they do it and why it's more accurate, but it doesn't disclose everything because they are a partner of the U.S. Department of State, and they can't use this without their approval. So again, they'll never use it in China and Russia, and et cetera. The other competing technologies, which if you want to get into it, we can. There's satellites and low Earth orbit satellites, et cetera. But the idea being, if you want the most accurate data, and it just makes sense, the closer you are to the target, the more accurate you can be. So, satellites are hundreds of kilometers to thousands of kilometers above. They're flying a few 100 feet above. And then the only other option is boots on the ground. And boots on the ground, people have tried, just doesn't scale. So those are the main risks. I'm going to jump back to this for a second. I skipped the bottom part about why, these countries. So there's Indonesia, and then in the pipeline, there's potentially Colombia, Malaysia. There's a multiple of these down the road. And why is it needed? Because these countries don't have their country mapped, at least to any type of accuracy. And then I'll add a little tidbit that's really interesting, is if you are, say, friendly or an ally of the US and you need military support, call it a drone strike, call it a missile of some sort, they will not do it unless your country is mapped at a 1 to 5,000 scale. They have their guidelines and they say, if you're invaded, you're having issues, we can't help you out in that way without that type of accuracy. Because the accuracy that Intermap provides is to the meter versus historically what all the maps show, you could be literally hundreds of meters off. So that's just a tidbit on why some of these countries are forcing kind of these along. The Indonesia contract is fully funded by the World Bank, and that's where a lot of the support's coming from. So Malaysia down the pipe, Colombia down the pipe, that type of idea. So I have some time left, and so I could answer some questions because this is fairly technical. But again, I just want to say that over the next month or two, what's right in front of you is this Indonesia contract, but there's a lot more to the company than that with, I think, in 3 to 5 years, it actually might be more of a SaaS insurance-based company than the market's giving it credit for.
Any questions?
It says 3-ish minutes for questions.
We can take questions. Any questions?
Oh.
Okay, here we go.
Hey, Jesse, can you speak a little to the expected rollout of the Indonesia contract? So I understand the RFP goes in end of this month, expect to be awarded in December of this year. What does that look like over the next several years?
Yeah, so I believe it's in 4 phases. On this chart, I believe they have like kind of the green to what they've been doing. Speaking with the CEO, they actually executed phase 1 much faster than everyone thought they could. So when they say this will happen over the next 2 to 3 years, a lot of people think, oh, this stuff always gets delayed, but they actually were executing it a lot quicker. So, making 50 to 60 million over a couple of years is kind of what we're thinking in the ballpark.
So I just wanted to get more clarity on their technology in terms of other competitors. Are they able to map at a 1 to 5,000 scale, or is that unique to this company?
There's other technologies that can map at 1 to 5,000, but the specification of what we're talking about of 1 to 5,000 is, are you just mapping an overlay of land? How much of the terrain features are you getting? So being able to say, there's buildings here, what's under those buildings? What's the ground under those buildings? What's under those trees? There's much more to it than just saying it's mapped at 1 to 5,000. There's much more other details there. That's just, yes, there are other companies that can map to 1 to 5,000. That's who else would be bidding on these contracts. I also forgot to disclose that we own ownership in this stock, so now I did it. Okay, thank you.